Jerry Agar for Ezra Levant. It was made clear to me yesterday that my commentary on unions over the decade has been unfair. I need to tone it down. I was shown a video of union members in Michigan demonstrating effective communication techniques designed to show respect for the ideas and feelings of the people on the other side of the debate.
Get out of my face!
Don't tear down the tent.
Get the out of my face!
You hurt a lady in there.
You're addressing me! I ain't hurt nobody!
You hurt.
Get out of my face!
Stop tearing down.
Back the fuck up!
Stop tearing down.
Well, that was certainly a productive exchange of ideas. In the state of Michigan, the House of Representatives moved closer to passing right-to-work legislation, which would mean that unions could not force membership as a condition of employment. Union membership would be the employee's choice. Fox News contributor and frequent guest on Sun News, Stephen Crowder, attended a rally put on by union members who are in opposition to the legislation. Apparently, the union people decided that the verbal expression of disagreement left Mr. Crowder insufficiently educated on their position, and that he might need a bit more persuasion.
You just assaulted me, buddy. You got a gun! We don't want anybody to get hurt. I'll kill a motherfucker with a gun! I killed 20 motherfuckers with a gun!
Well, I think that was also a pretty good demonstration of the right to peacefully assemble, don't you? There are those who will knee-jerk into claiming the Charter's protection of the right to assemble, but they ignore that what that also has to mean is the right not to. If the Charter protects the right of unions to form, then it has to protect the right of a worker to decline to participate. The point of the freedoms protected in the Charter is freedom, is it not? Right to work, which really means the right to determine for yourself as an employee whether you want the union to represent you, is a step in the right direction if you believe in people's right to make free choices. Various reports have shown that right to work states have less unemployment. To be more blunt about it, what right does a union have to stand by the side of the road leading to the factory like a highwayman to take by force the wages of the worker to provide a service the worker may not want? And why are unions so worked up about it? Do they suspect that if people get a choice, they'll drop their membership? Oh, that's right. Public sector workers in Wisconsin proved that they will in very large numbers. Half of them, if I recall correctly. That's a lot. By the way, the unions have done such a good job helping to build a livable city and a livable wage in Detroit. Remember, we're talking about Michigan, that the population has dropped since the year 2000 down to the level it was 100 years ago. Detroit is an economic disaster area. So I hope the state continues along the line that half of the states have taken so far. You want to be in a union? Be in a union. Don't want to be in a union? You should be able to decide not to be. That's good for the private market. But the public unions are a different animal altogether. The solution is to abolish public unions. Now, if you're shocked by that, this isn't a new idea, nor is it a radical idea. When you consider that union leaders and politicians once thought it unthinkable that we would have public unions in the first place. George Meany, the former president of the AFL-CIO, said in 1955, "It is impossible to bargain collectively with the government." What did he mean by that? James Shirk wrote in the New York Times, "The founders of the labor movement viewed unions as a vehicle to get workers more of the profits they helped create. Government workers, however, don't generate profits. They merely negotiate for more tax money." Let me give an example of the problem using Ontario numbers. According to Stats Canada, in 2011, there were in excess of 1.3 million people employed by some level of government in this province. Add in their adult family members, and that's a huge voting bloc, especially when there may be just over 4 million people voting in total in a provincial election. What's the incentive for most politicians to go head-to-head with the unions for the taxpayer? The unions can vote them in or out eventually. NHL players have a union and a bit of a labor difficulty at the moment. As a fan, that may bother you. But that's the extent of your involvement, as you won't be charged for games not played. You don't pay the players. They don't work for you. It isn't likely that the public will be much affected by most labor negotiations in the private sector. If ABC Widget Corp is shutting down because of a strike, unless it's in a company town, the whole affair is only of passing notice to the general public. But if the city workers go on strike and the garbage piles up, it's the people who suffer. Too often, some weak-kneed politician simply caves in and gives the unions what they want. It may seem that the teachers in Ontario are striking against the government. But as Shirk reminds us, when government unions strike, they strike against taxpayers. Franklin Delano Roosevelt considered this unthinkable and intolerable. When teachers strike, they won't be paid, but you won't get a break on your taxes, nor will the teachers pay for your extra daycare expenses. There will be no return on the days lost in your child's education. The law now favors the union side of negotiations. The teachers who are taking action these days against children and taxpayers have no contract, yet they own the right to the job. The government cannot replace them with the unemployed teachers, who would very likely be happy with the deal teachers had a decade ago, minus the sick days. How do those laws come to be? Politicians forgot that they represented the other side and happily sat down at the table to give the unions what they wanted. Many politicians proudly declare themselves on the side of labor, but that isn't their job. At one time, people took government jobs for security, not for golden retirements and high wages. And now they get all of it, and they still want more. Legendary union leaders and the darling of the left, FTR, once thought public unions anathema to a functioning government. They were right. And on unions, both public and private, let's keep up the fight in Canada to force them to open their books so that not only the public, but even their own membership will know what they're up to and who they shovel money to. The Sun has reported that the bill in Ottawa parallels similar legislation in the United States that led to charges and imprisonment for some union bosses after the books were open to scrutiny. Either that or the business that is the unions can start paying taxes.